Welcome back in, Geico Outkick Studios. Hope you're having a fantastic Friday. Frankly, I think it's hard not to be having a fantastic Friday with college football and the SEC back officially. Mountain West has announced they're back. Pac-12 has announced they're back. Expectations that the MAC will be back later today to officially return, which means every FBS conference is going to be playing. Only a couple of schools now, I think at this point, that play FBS football would not be playing. Joel Klatt, I think, is going to actually have a game that they get to call. You haven't been sent home from Oklahoma yet, right?
I have not, although I just got here.
Yeah.
Although I have been texting with people inside of each program, and
just to make sure it does look good
as of right now. And this is the big hurdle: is the PCR test on Wednesday. They get the results back on Thursday night, and that's really kind of it's not the final go no go, but it really is close. And so. Yeah. I think that based on the position groups that were a problem for Kansas State and the fact that they should be all right, I think that we're going to be good to go for Saturday.
So as all this is starting to happen, you and I think we kind of talked about this a little bit on the radio, but we haven't made any bones about the fact that you and I have been fighting hard for college football to be played. In the first hour of the program today, we had Greg Sankey, SEC commissioner, on. And he was talking about what it would feel like to finally see all of the SEC schools, knock on wood, hopefully, be able to officially play. And, I mean, just as a big college football fan, for the SEC to be back, like I just said, is that intro point for the Pac-12, which you have called a lot of Pac-12 games over the years. Mountain West is going to be back. Big Ten's going to be back. How just excited are you about the fact that while it seemed, and we battled all throughout the summer, and you and I started having conversations back in April and May about, hey, we got to make sure that college football happens. What are you hearing? All these different ups and downs, the roller coaster that was what everybody went through. But for college football to now be in a position where at least some games are going to be played by pretty much every team, it's pretty remarkable, right? I mean, I am so excited for tomorrow when the SEC officially comes back. Because 14 teams theoretically playing then, it just feels like then there's three major conferences going. I can sit down on my couch, I can turn on the television, and there'll basically be games all day long.
Yeah, I mean, you would make it a selfish thing and think about you on the couch, but that's just your MO. So that's fine though. Like,
yes,
I will tell you though that. And you're right. We had conversations all the way back dating to March and April and May. And Clay, I told you this all the way back then, is that my primary concern was for the well-being psychologically of the players.
Yeah.
And I just thought that we were falling victim to single-factor analysis. We had this conversation several times, and I felt like that single-factor analysis took us down a rabbit hole to where we forgot about the unintended consequences of taking something as influential as college football away from the players.
Right.
This is their life, right? Like, this is their livelihood. This is the reason why they have the opportunity at a higher education. This is their avenue to potentially go to the NFL and make a living out of this skill that they have yet to monetize yet in their life. And when you take that away from somebody, I always just kept putting myself in that position, and I would have really struggled, and I know that there's been some depression. I know that there's been some mental health hurdles, and I think
and just the discipline of kids knowing staying eligible.
Think about eligibility, drug addiction. You go down the list, and I always would bring that up to you in my conversations with Greg Sankey. I would bring it up to him. And so when I see the teams getting ready to play, yes, Clay, of course, I'm so excited to see them compete and watch football and have that level of normalcy. But even more so, I'm so excited for them that they get to go out there and enjoy the fruits of all of that labor and the discipline to get themselves to this point. Remember when you watch football this Saturday, every player that walks out onto a football field has opted into the season. They are choosing to be out there to compete. And I think that's an important note for everybody, in particular those that want to, huff and puff about whether this is amateurism or so on. These kids chose to be out there. They want to compete, and we should celebrate that.
you're in Oklahoma for another Oklahoma quarterback, and I know Spencer Rattler has played already, but for many people, this game against Kansas State is going to kind of be a national introduction for him. How would you compare him to Baker, to Kyler, and to and to all the talent that has rolled through Oklahoma in recent history? I mean, it's really kind of wild to think about what already has happened there in terms of the quarterback position. How does he compare to Baker Mayfield and to Kyler Murray?
Well, just think of it. Since Lincoln Riley got to Oklahoma, first as a coordinator and now as a head coach, every single year his quarterback has been in the top 4 of the Heisman Trophy voting. I mean, that gives you a sense of the level of play, that this university has enjoyed. And listen, Spencer's a little bit different than all of those guys, but he's also very talented in his own right. And I think that, in particular, because I thought Jalen was the most different from Baker and Kyler, right? He probably didn't have the downfield passing acumen as the other two. Not that was a bad thing. He was still a second-round draft pick in the National Football League, which is nothing to scoff at. I will tell you this, though, and Clay, I'm trying not to be one of those guys that are just like, he's amazing, and be hyperbolic about it. But when I watch Spencer and what I've seen him in practice, and now I've seen him in a game on tape, and I haven't seen an arm quite like his since I saw Patrick Mahomes early in his career at Texas Tech. And I know that might raise everybody's eyebrows, but I'm telling you, he made a couple of throws, and albeit against Missouri State, that were just another level than what you normally see in college football or really even in the NFL, to give you some level of understanding of what I'm talking about. Last year, Patrick Mahomes, the longest pass he completed in the air was 53 yards. It was the touchdown pass to Tyreek Hill in the Super Bowl. And it was an incredible throw, and everyone just gushed over the arm talent and athleticism that Mahomes has, and rightly so. Last week, again, albeit against Missouri State, but off of his back foot, he reads his safety down, speaking of Spencer Rattler, and off his back foot just kind of flips the ball, and it looks like a nondescript throw. It went 52 yards in the air, caught by Mims, a true freshman, for a touchdown. And I rewound it about 10 times, and I'm like, I kept counting. I was like, that didn't go 52 yards in the air. I kept counting. I'm like, that's as impressive a throw as I've seen a college football quarterback make in a long time, just from a pure arm talent perspective. Now, that doesn't mean that he's the greatest quarterback since sliced bread, because there's so much that goes into the position. But from a pure talent perspective of the way that this kid spins the football, it's as good as I've seen since I saw Mahomes early in his career in Lubbock playing for Cliff Kingsbury.
We talked about some of the challenges that the Big 12 has had, and you're there for the Oklahoma-Kansas State game. And the point, larger context, would probably be that Texas and Oklahoma are still looking pretty good. Oklahoma gets their debut, and then we have Texas going on the road against Texas Tech. Is there any doubt to you that it's Oklahoma and Texas and then a drop-off? Because that Oklahoma State performance against Tulsa didn't look very good. Or do you think that was a little bit of an aberration and Oklahoma State is still on the same level potentially as the other two?
No, I thought it was bothersome, in particular with Chuba Hubbard not going off. I thought that their offensive line didn't play well. Now their quarterback is dealing with an injury. Is it going to be the JUCO transfer? Is it going to be the true freshman, Illingsworth? They've got some major questions now. And remember, this is not a long season. So these things have to get answered right away. Depth is an issue, not just because of injury, but also because of COVID. So I'm a bit worried for Oklahoma State, which to me makes this more of a two-team race in the Big 12. And you're right about Texas and Oklahoma. Oklahoma's the 5-time defending champ. They're still really good, although a bit younger than they have been in the past. And Texas has their most veteran crew that they've had in a long time, certainly under Tom Herman. They got a veteran quarterback in Ellinger, some really quality transfer wide receivers like Tariq Black from Michigan. I think Texas has a great shot this year. I know everyone says, stop telling me Texas is back. And I'm not saying Texas is back. I'm just telling you Texas is a really good
Texas
team.
Has been back since you and I were doing a television show together in the mornings to compete with Game Day.
Yeah, years and years ago.
7 years ago now, I think now.
Oh my gosh, has it really?
Yeah, I think it was 7 years. I think we debuted in 13, so 6 years, whatever I think it's 7 years that we did that show a very long time ago. Now, SEC is kicking off, and we talked, like I said, with the SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey in the first hour of the program. 14 different teams taking the field. Alabama is the prohibitive favorite. Georgia still not really sure what they're going to do at quarterback because they're still waiting to see exactly what's going to happen there. What do you think about Alabama? Are they head and shoulders in your mind above the rest of the conference? How would you break down the SEC race?
Yeah, I'm so excited to watch the SEC, and the reason is because none of these teams have played schedules like they're about to play. I think that the league's a little deeper than it has been in the last couple of years because of the emergence of teams like Kentucky, the emergence of, I think, an A&M team, Tennessee, which I know makes you happy. I think that they're going to have a pretty good team. So it's a deep team, a deep league. To give you a sense of how difficult it is, and I'm sure you've talked about this, but Georgia is going to play, at least right now, what it looks like to be 5 ranked teams in a 6-week stretch.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's absolutely insane. Florida has 5 ranked teams. Alabama's schedule is going to be much more difficult than they've ever faced before.
I think Arkansas, Joel, I'll cut you off for Alabama for a minute because poor Arkansas fans. I think they have the toughest schedule in the history of college football. They may legitimately go 0-10, and the teams that they are playing blows your mind. But I cut you off for the Alabama answer, but it's like I look at Arkansas and I'm like, this is one of the most difficult things I've ever seen.
Yeah, the only difference is nobody cares about Arkansas.
We're huge, by the way. We're huge in Arkansas. We're on like 16 markets in Arkansas. Thank you for everybody just turning the radio off.
No, they didn't turn it off. They nodded along, and they were like, you know what, you're right, because 0-10 means that no one's going to care about Arkansas. But, yes, obviously Arkansas is going to have a difficult schedule. That's like saying Rutgers has a difficult schedule in the Big Ten East. It's like, well, clearly they're the worst team in a good division, right?
Right, yeah, but even for the draw, listen to this, Joel. I don't even know that people have realized what Arkansas has on. Listen to this. They play number 4 Georgia, and I know the AP poll may get adjusted, right, when all the Ohio State and the Pac-12s and everybody else comes back in. But right now, they play number 4 Georgia, number 8 Auburn, number 10 Texas A&M, number 16 Tennessee, number 5 Florida, number 6 LSU, and they finished the season against number 2 Alabama on the road, which just feels like cruel and unusual punishment. I mean, that is unbelievable.
Well, the fact that they get crossover Georgia, Tennessee, and Florida is just like that's a nail in the coffin, right?
It really is.
It speaks to the point of the SEC, and this is what Greg Sankey does a great job. I know he was on earlier on the show, and this is what I've come to really respect about him is. And he told me I had a lot of conversations with him over this offseason, and he said, one of the things that he's gotten really comfortable with is just not apologizing for who they are in the SEC. And the bottom line is that they tend to try to schedule for championships, not for money. The other leagues have gone for money, and they've gone for the 9th conference game in a normal year for the almighty dollar for their television contract, and the SEC hasn't gone for that. They've gone for the dominance of being ready for championship season. And to some degree, even though they went to the 10-game season this year, they still have that element in there because they were only given the gauntlet to places like Arkansas, not that other teams didn't get difficult schedule as well. Back to Alabama just really quickly, because I think this is an interesting note. Did you know that the most consecutive weeks Alabama has ever played Power 5 opponents under Nick Saban is 5? And it's only happened a couple of different years since 2010. One of them was 2012. The 5th game in that 5-game stretch was Johnny Manziel and Texas A&M beating them in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
The last 2 seasons, the most consecutive weeks that they have ever played, the last 2 seasons, most consecutive weeks, Power 5 opponents, is 3. They start the year with 6 straight. That's something that they've never navigated through under Nick Saban. So I can't wait to see how they just handle it from a week-in, week-out perspective of having to play tough opponents. Everyone used to, and you definitely did this in the Big Ten. You would just hammer Ohio State for those losses to play at places like Iowa or places like Purdue. The difference is that those were always right after a game like Michigan State when they were really good, or right after hosting Penn State and playing double overtime. And then you have to go right back out onto the road. And that's something that the SEC has been able to avoid. by having, Citadel in November or Wofford or whatever it is. And that's because they schedule for championships. Again, I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying that that's one of the reasons why I can't wait for this schedule. Is it's going to be so different for those teams to go through the week in, week out gauntlet on consecutive weeks.
Joel, we will be watching. I can't wait. I know you can't wait. I know the players, the coaches, the fans, the parents, everybody is ecstatic for college football to officially be back and rolling. We'll be watching in Norman as you guys roll out with Kansas State, Oklahoma. And have you gotten, I'm actually curious, have they given you any of the games yet that you're going to have in the Big Ten? I know it's not public, but have you looked at it and been like, oh boy, we're set for some awesome games?
I think there's some that are public. We're going to kick off the Big Ten season with the Nebraska-Ohio State game in the shoe. So Gus and I will be there for that.
That's pretty awesome.
I believe Thanksgiving we're going to have Penn State at Michigan. And then, of course, Michigan-Ohio State. I think those are the only ones that I know for sure.
That's not bad. That's a lot to look forward to, my man. I can't wait for them at all. Thanks for getting up early with us, and we'll be watching on Saturday.
Sir.
That's Joel Klatt at Joel Klatt. Go follow him on Twitter.